Hi, I'm Linda Cook,
And I'm Sharon Wren.
and this is QC Crime Watch, and we're going to tell you about some really up-to-the-minute crimes this time, along with one ongoing court case. We also want to remind you, as we do every week, that neither one of us is an attorney, and for many, many reasons, we cannot recommend an attorney, nor can we give legal advice. So with that, thank you so much. Sharon, you have been up to your ears this week.
Oh my goodness.
Goodness, this has been,
This has been a
I did want to
week.
say this. It is June, and the weather has been very nice.
Mhm.
And really, I haven't thought much about it being a big crime month, but it has been.
Yeah, we've had a heck of a
And
month here at this.
it has been one heck of a month and our hearts go out to the people. The people use the phrase collateral damage, I think,
Yeah,
in kind of a mean way, but our hearts go out to the people affected by
right.
these
Not
crimes.
just the victims, but the families, the friends.
Exactly.
I mean, even the perpetrators' family and friends are
Absolutely.
they're completely blindsided by some of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, well,
So go
we
ahead, Sharon.
we had a story come out this morning, hit the website, and I read the criminal complaint and it's pretty horrific. An East Moline man is in the Scott County Jail on no bond after police in Bettendorf accused him of human trafficking, first-degree kidnapping, and second-degree sexual abuse. We don't see this here.
Sharon, when I saw that, and I did read the story, and was just horrified by it.
Right.
Um, can you talk a little bit about what those charges mean?
Right. Well, the criminal complaint where we take all of our information from says the defendant, who has been identified as 37-year-old Edward McNana of East Moline, messaged the victim through a messaging app asking for sexual services in exchange for money on May 3rd, 2024. Now,
Okay, now
this,
that sounds like simple prostitution,
yes,
right? So
except
far.
the victim,
Okay.
the victim was, for lack of better phrasing, posted on the app by another person who forced the victim to commit uh, commercial sex acts by force, fraud, or coercion.
Mm,
Now, the good news is that person has been charged, is awaiting trial, separate case from this one. So, with Mr. McNana, he agreed to meet the victim at the American in Davenport, which was under construction at the time.
okay.
So they went into a room where, and this is all allegedly, nobody's been convicted. He
Right.
allegedly grabbed the victim and, quote, straight up choked her.
Oh,
That was a quote. Then he allegedly zip tied her hands behind her back, put duct tape around her mouth and head to keep her from fighting back. And then he sexually assaulted her. And we never put the details of this in stories because we are discreet, but this one was bad.
oh,
Yes.
oh. I just keep thinking how terrified she must have been.
She could
And
have suffocated.
well,
Well, I mean, if her nose was
yes,
congested. Ugh.
yes,
So
yes.
after the assault, he put her in the shower in the hotel room, still tied up and duct taped, and
Oh,
left. So when the fella who was trafficking her came back, he had to burn the zip ties off of her because they were so tight. Yeah. So about a month later, after the assault, officers obtained his cell phone and found a video of a man sexually assaulting a victim who was duct taped and zip tied, and the person in the video matched the description the victim gave. He was arrested on June 5th, charged with first degree kidnapping, second degree sexual assault, human trafficking, no bond, and has a preliminary hearing on June 13th.
and Sharon, you and I have talked about this, but obviously away from the podcast. We
Yes.
talk about human trafficking, and we always think of more than one person being involved.
Right.
And I wonder if there are more than two involved
It's
in
it's hard
this.
to tell. This could be
Right.
part of a larger investigation, so it's not like we can really call them up and go, so you got anybody else? We
Wow.
we never want to compromise a case, but this kind, we definitely don't want to compromise it.
Well, right. And we'll be there when
Oh,
something happens. We'll follow this follow the documents and be in the
Mhm.
courtroom when something happens that's newsworthy.
Right.
So, wow, Sharon, thank you. That's
Oh yeah. Yeah, that one that shook me.
it is this one that I'm going to talk about has not left me.
Okay.
Um, this one is an older case that and I remember this was back in March of 2021. So we've talked about this before too. This
Yes.
is an example of how long it takes the wheels of justice to turn.
Right.
This is a case. There is no conviction yet. There is no sentence. So I can only describe the case, what's
Yeah.
going on.
The
It's
allegations therein.
exactly. This is going on in Scott County Court right now, even
Okay.
as we speak. Shortly after noon on March 24th, 2021, Davenport police responded to the 1900 block of West First Street,
Okay.
and the report was an unresponsive person. It was a woman, and the lady was deceased when they arrived. The initial 911 caller was a man named Sylvis Nelson. He is 39 of Davenport. And he said he was at home alone with, and I hope I pronounce this correctly, Cobrianda Anderson, who was 34. And he said that Anderson had an asthma attack and was sick. So when her autopsy was done, this is from the Scott County Court arrest affidavit. The injuries to the victim were inconsistent with the defendant's explanation of what happened. Scott County Court records say that an autopsy showed the cause of the victim's death was strangulation and blunt force head injuries. So, Mr. Nelson faces a first-degree murder charge. This is a long trial that started earlier this week. It is expected to continue into next week. So maybe by the time we podcast again, I can let you know whether there was a conviction. The sentencing will probably be set for later. So the people that are watching and following along today may be able to follow along next week. Nelson was taken into custody after the incident in Rock Island by Rock Island and Davenport police. And again, he faces a charge of first-degree murder. What does that mean? It means that it's a Class A felony that upon conviction carries a penalty of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, it is the state's, it's on the state. It is the state's burden to prove this. So he doesn't have to prove he's innocent. In other words, the state has to prove he is guilty.
In this
So we'll be
country, you're
following this
innocent until proven
day
guilty.
by day.
Yes.
So you'll hear more about this next week.
Okay, well, on a slightly lighter note, because these were a couple of doozies, a man in Kewanee has been arrested after police investigated a series of vehicle burglaries. The burglaries happened between May 14th and May 30th of this year, and the officers identified a suspect, Zachary Huffman, age 21, in connection with the burglaries. He was given a notice to appear, released from custody. Okay, that same day, May 30th, officers caught him doing it again, trying to break into cars.
After he had been released.
The same day.
Oh dear.
Oh, but this time, Mr. Huffman allegedly had a firearm on his person. He has been charged. Well, he was on pretrial release at the time the second incident happened, so yeah, you go back. He's been charged with unlawful possession of a firearm without a valid FOID card. That's firearm identification card, which gun owners in Illinois have to have. That's a Class A misdemeanor, and burglary without causing damage, a Class 3 felony that carries a possible sentence of 2 to 5 years in prison. He has a preliminary hearing on June 9th.
Wow. He's so young.
Well, I just don't get why you would go and commit a crime again the same day you were released for doing the same thing.
That's going to affect possibly the outcome of this.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how if they put these cases together or if they try one and then they try the other one. So we're going to
Right.
follow that one.
Yes. Thank you very
It's
much.
just goofy.
This one is probably the saddest and most horrible crime I have followed for a long, long time. So please know that we think of people's families, the people who know and did know these folks involved. There's a man who was just sentenced to prison. It's a Davenport father who pleaded guilty to a charge in connection with his daughter's death. This happened in November 2023. On Thursday, so this just happened. Devian Woods, who had pleaded guilty to child endangerment resulting in death, that's not murder, that's a different charge,
Right.
was sentenced to prison for a period not to exceed 50 years.
Five
So
zero.
he'll have credit for
Okay.
time served in Scott County Jail in connection with this case. The court imposed a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years before he is eligible for parole or work release. So think about that. So that's a pretty heavy, it's a 15-year, not a sentence, but it's part of the sentence.
Right.
He was 22 in 2023. His 7-week-old daughter was in his care.
Oh,
And this was in Davenport. The incident happened in the 1700 block of Emerald Drive after a report of an unresponsive child. And police say in the arrest affidavit that Woods, having malice aforethought, killed the baby in circumstances manifesting an extreme indifference to human life. Affidavits say the baby suffered multiple head injuries that resulted in her death.
and
And
how
an autopsy showed that she suffered contusions to the face, subdural hemorrhage, acute hemorrhages, that's bleeding, of the nerve roots of the cervical spinal cord, and healing fractures of multiple bones. That means she'd been injured before.
and
Contusion is a medical term for a bruise. And a
right.
subdural hemorrhage means there's bleeding between the area between the brain and the skull. Police say in affidavits that Woods was the sole caretaker of this infant from 9:38 a.m. until police arrived shortly before p.m. at the scene that day. He had differing accounts of how he first came to notice that the victim was unresponsive, police say in these affidavits. A tenant canvassed in the same building, that means that they went through the building and talked to people. A tenant canvassed in the same building advised they heard loud thumps from the apartment and also heard a man yelling, "Get up and stop crying." The victim suffered multiple injuries that resulted in her death. She also had blunt force injuries, superficial ones, minor ones, to her back and left arm. And I don't know, I wonder when these things happen, why do you not just walk away? Were there drugs involved? Were there mental illnesses that
Right.
contributed to this? But as it stands, the child is dead. She was an infant, and he will not harm anyone else for a long time. And
They tell you in the parenting books and the articles and whatnot that being frustrated with a baby is not uncommon. But what they always advise you to do is to find a neighbor or a relative who could watch the child for an hour or so. Or if nothing else, put the baby in the crib where it will be safe and just walk away.
walk away.
Yeah, just, and I mean, we don't, like you said, we don't know what's going on with this situation,
No,
but
we don't.
obviously he didn't have any postpartum depression that we could be concerned about, what with him being male. But yeah, this is just
Horrific.
horrific. Oh boy, this has been an episode.
It's been an episode, and my heart goes out to of course, the child, but the family on both sides. So anyway, that's about all we have time for today. And I'm sorry it was so grim. Excuse me, I'm sorry it was so grim this week. But
The nature of
if
crime.
you know your neighbor or your friend is having some problems, it's okay to say, hey, let me take your child for half an hour.
Yeah.
let me take the baby outside or to the park and help get that person some help.
Yeah, because as someone who had two kids, that is really appreciated. That is so appreciated.
Well, I will go back to, I guess, the lighter of your crimes. Look at all the cars this person was looking through and trying to break into. So remember that one and lock your cars, even if they're in the driveway,
Hmm.
and stop something like this from happening. And lock your doors and come see us next week.
We'll see you next week.